Jackson Arnold to Auburn. Is this the quarterback? Bud, is this going to be the guy who brings it all together for Hugh Freeze?
I mean, you can have the plan if you're Auburn. We're going to spend a whole lot of money, high school, 1 year, 2 years. Those guys are going to kind of mature and be ready to rock and be third-year guys in 2025. But there still has to be like a stud out there on the market for you to go buy. And I don't know that this portal is quite as good as some people hoped that it would be. Maybe because so many more schools have just some that NIL money coming now as a result of the House settlement. Maybe because of the lack of overall coaching changes that we've had. Like we don't have just these massive, roster exodus for the most part because we just didn't have very many coaches who are leaving or being fired. I mean, it could work. Jackson Arnold is really talented. I think he's probably a better fit for that offense than Peyton Thorne is. But at the same time, when he had to go kind of off the quick game first read stuff this year, it was troubling. Now, Auburn has a way better offensive line than Oklahoma did. At least this year they did. I know they're losing some guys off that. We'll see who they replace that with. And I think Auburn probably has better receivers to throw to as well.
Given all
the guys that got hurt for OU. Yeah, right. And, Coleman and, we'll see like Perry Thompson, those guys, how they continue to emerge. But, I mean, it's hard for me to judge. It's kind of hard for me to judge Jackson Arnold completely based on this season at OU. But at the same time, like back when they were healthy in fall camp, like he was having some turnover problems. So we'll see if they can get that out. It doesn't feel like the savior to me, but I can't totally write it off.
Peyton Thorne threw for 2,700 yards with 21 touchdowns and 9 interceptions in Hugh Freeze's offense. Jackson Arnold's going to be fine.
Because you're saying like put in the Peyton Thorne adjustment, on that success, 21 touchdowns to 9 interceptions with that kind of production probably indicates that if we're dealing with a better starting point with Jackson Arnold, then we're going to get a better finish point too. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think you put him in Hugh Freeze's offense. You're right, but he's not great on the second read. But how many times does Hugh Freeze require to make more than one read? If this guy does this, throw here or hand off. That's pretty much Hugh Freeze's offense for the most part. So I think he'll be fine. I think he'll be behind a much better line. I think he's going to have much better weapons around him. I mean, he'll be facing. I mean, Oklahoma had a pretty difficult schedule, I would say, as compared to most SEC teams last year. So it's not like the competition is going to be a huge leap for him. He might even have a slightly easier schedule. I think he's going to be fine. I think he's an upgrade, but I also don't think Auburn's done at QB.
That's all the reports are saying that. But Ashton Daniels isn't committed there yet, right? From Stanford. That was what Zenitz told us was going to happen. He thought and I thought that was done, but it's not done, I guess. But yeah, they're supposed to bring in another quarterback to compete. I think it's interesting because, Tom, I agree with you. It'll be fine, but that wasn't the question from Chip. He was like, is this it? Is this the answer for Hugh Freeze and what Auburn wants to do, which is be at the top of the SEC again? And to me, I think it potentially could be. I think he's shown flashes. His confidence looked shaken early at Oklahoma, which is totally normal, but maybe he's got some thicker skin now, from developing a little bit of mental toughness, having been benched. I mean, sometimes that can be good for a player. You get benched, you realize, okay, it's not the worst thing in the world. He's been booed by his home crowd. It's not the worst thing in the world. Now you go to a fresh start. I think it could be a better surrounding for him, but I do think the offense probably a better fit, and I think they will have better talent for him because I don't think they're done by any means. And I think that'll matter, what type of system. And I think it was very smart. I think if he would have gone to Mississippi State, it would have been I don't know if I love that. Because it's Auburn and because they're going to spend, I think I feel better about it for Jackson Arnold.
But as for being the guy or whatever, I mean, what quarterback is out there right now that strikes you as, okay, this is the guy we're going to go win a national title with?
Right. And do you think that's Mateer? Because I just don't think if you're Auburn, unless you're going to blow away other schools who have more connections to them, meaning a Miami or an Oklahoma, what's the incentive to go to Auburn if you're Mateer? Unless it's just incentives,
Mm-hmm. All right, another big one that happened this weekend. Miller Moss is your new quarterback at Louisville. I think we kind of all saw it trending that way. Mm-hmm. Danny, what are your thoughts about the fit there?
So I actually think it's a good fit. I mean, I think any quarterback going to play with Jeff Brom and his system that's smart, that will be able to pick up a system pretty quickly, should work. We saw Tyler Shuck have a pretty nice year after it was all said and done. The reports were that they were coming out that, he looked strong in camp. I would expect Miller Moss to have a similar type of season. Are they keeping the freshman running back, the kid from Miami? Like, that's to me, I think they are. Isaac Brown. But they usually have a pretty good cast of characters for the ACC to be competitive. I go back to that game. Like, if I threw in tape of Miller Moss, the game he had against LSU, he looked phenomenal. Then as things kind of started to break down, the offensive line struggles, he made more turnovers. So that'll be key, but that describes a lot of quarterbacks. But I've seen him be able to step up and make any throw, to be able to lead the team. Even against Michigan, I know they lost, but he played pretty well in that game. Even responding from turnovers, he's going to have to eliminate that issue, but I think he'll do a better job of it at Louisville.
Bud,
I don't hate it, right? But again, does this get you excited? Do we think Miller Moss is an upgrade from Tyler Shuck? I don't.
No.
I think he's roughly the same in a lot of ways.
I think physically, he's less talented, meaningfully so.
Probably not as
I don't think he has
I
don't think he has the absolute juice on his arm that Shuck does, but I think he might be more accurate.
That's true. Who does Louisville have in the non-con this year?
Let's see.
Louisville 2025.
Do they get Notre Dame this year?
Live research on the Cover 3 podcast. So Eastern Kentucky, James Madison, Bowling Green, Kentucky, Boston College, Cal, Clemson, UVA, Miami, Pitt, SMU, Vatech.
Oh, 12-0.
That's not easy, but that is manageable.
Yeah.
So, especially the non-con, the way that starts out, they should start 3-0. JMU's beaten some ACC teams before, but Chip's power's out, so we really don't need to highlight that.
I bet their win total is probably 8.5 when it's all said and done.
They're probably what?
8.5.
They're slight dogs at home to Clemson. They're dogs at Miami. I think somewhere around there, right? Maybe 8.5. That's probably fair. Can Miller Moss get you to that?
I think so. I felt like watching Miller Moss at USC last season. It was weird because you're so used to watching USC have Caleb Williams and those guys, and Miller Moss is not Caleb Williams, nor is he a Heisman kind of first-round draft pick tier player. But I still thought, as far as most college QBs are concerned, he did a perfectly good job for that team. I don't think he was a problem for USC, which is why, to me, when they benched him for Maeva, I understood that was probably more of a move made with the future in mind.
Yeah, to evaluate Maeva.
Yeah, but USC looked no different. In fact, I would argue they looked slightly worse in a lot of areas, especially when it came to the passing game. So I don't know. I think Miller Moss going to Louisville is probably going to be pretty good for them in the ACC. I think that they'll be in the running for, the ACC title game and maybe a shot at a at-large berth. Not because of Miller Moss, but I think with Miller Moss. Were there any other kind of portal moves you guys saw this weekend that stood out before I get to the one that made me mad?
Ooh. I want to hear the one that made you mad, actually.
Is this the big one? Is this the one that made me mad?
Bo Pribula.
Yeah.
Entering the portal and leaving the team.
Yeah.
5 days before.
In the dust.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The week of a game.
Yeah. And I got a lot of pushback by being upset about it. And listen, I know it's a tough decision. I know that the schedule is completely effed, that the way that they're doing it by having the portal open now. And if you're a quarterback, it's a game of musical chairs. If you wait too long, there might not be a spot left. I understand all of it. But your team's in the playoff, and it's not like you're a third or fourth stringer who hasn't played. You've been a part of that offense all season, and you can talk about how difficult the situation is. The team that they're playing, Penn State, SMU, their backup quarterback who began the season as the starter was benched in the middle of the season. He's in the portal, but guess what? He's not leaving the team before the playoff is over. So I think I get it. I don't really blame Pribula as much as I blame the situation, but I still think that is a bad decision. And I think that will impact how other teams look at him.
Also, even more, the thing that bothered me probably the most is that he's played a lot. They have a package for him in Wildcat. Mm-hmm. They utilize him as a running quarterback. They used him when Drew Aller got hurt. Like, you just saw and experienced what it feels like to help your team, and now you're leaving. Like, if you're SMU, you don't have to prep for that package anymore, which is, that might seem like a little thing, but they absolutely do. Here's the one out, because I'm with you, Tom, and I'm surprised because you're always very player friendly. Like, you're very understanding of the system. I have begrudgingly become more of somebody who's okay with the times, but the only thing that I would say, what if he told James Franklin, this is what we don't know, because he said, I discussed this with my family and my coaches. If James Franklin said, if your head isn't here, then you're gone. Like, and there's a chance he might have said that. True. Then I take any criticism of Pribula off the table.
Agreed.
Like, I think
put it all on James.
Exactly. Then I'd be like, James Franklin, what are you doing? Like, why would you do that? I don't know. That was just a hypothetical I threw out there. I don't know why James Franklin would do that, but maybe, some coaches, they have different philosophies as far as the way they approach the portal. A lot of coaches have a hard line. If you enter the portal, you're done. Like, you're not welcome here anymore, which I think is antiquated. I even brought it on here about Kenny Dillingham when buying his philosophy of, sure, you want to hit the portal, I'll help you be placed somewhere that's a good fit for you and get more money, but let's finish what we started. Like, I think that's a brilliant strategy. So I don't know if that's the case. The more likelihood is his agent and his team around him are telling him, you have to get in the portal now so that spots aren't taken. And so you need to be ready to go, which is also a product of the system. But you could have played 2 more games and the semester doesn't start. Like, you could have waited and seen what's out there. And I don't think it would have changed that much.
I mean, like, does some of this come down to whether Franklin would have let him play if he entered?
Yeah, but we don't know. That's the thing. The situation,
right? Like, that's the detail we don't have in this.
Right.
Well, yeah, like we said, though, if that's a team decision, if it's Franklin's decision, I think it's a dumb decision on his part. If it's Pribula's decision, I think it's a dumb decision on his part. It's a dumb decision either way. Like, we talked about the playoff and how it's going to make more meaningful games and it'll solve opt-outs. And again, I'm not blaming Pribula or Franklin. I understand the situation is completely jacked up. It's just, to leave your team during a playoff while you still have something to play for, when you're not a backup who has not played, but you're literally a quarterback who is used in a lot of packages, to me is lame as hell.
Malik Murphy did it last year. Worked out pretty well for him, right? He went to Duke, crushed it. Now he's back in the portal, probably going to get a bigger payday at somewhere else.
You think so?
Well, I
thought Duke was offering him a pay cut.
Oh, really?
Like, I don't think that they liked what they got in him.
Chris, Bo Pribula is a college graduate who will be making 6 figures next year to play football. He's not a tiny little baby boy who can't be criticized.
He what'd y'all make of his messaging? Because he's trying to blame it on everything else.
Yes. That's making me wonder if Franklin said he couldn't play, but I also think it's probably crafted by his agent so he doesn't get blasted as well. And by the way, since we're on it, like, the lengthy statements, the love letters to the university and to your teammates and your family, and after, a lot of prayer and God told me and all this garbage. If you want to go, just go. We don't need the love letter. You're not always going to be a Penn State guy. Not anymore. Like, you could have been, but you're not anymore. Like, you will be a Penn State alum because he did graduate, which is awesome. But is Joe Burrow a Buckeye?
No.
To me, you're not going to be a Nittany Lion for life. You're going to be wherever you go next.
Especially if Penn State competes for a national championship.
Right.
Exactly. Like, are you
does
coming?
If they win, does he get a ring?
That's what I was going to say. Are you coming back for ring night?
Oh, yeah. He definitely would.
No, I say mail that.
Be awkward, I think.
That's a mail.
Yeah.
Maybe James Franklin doesn't send him one.
Have y'all I apologize about that. One of the power goes pop. And then all of a sudden you're like, uh-oh. Have y'all done Miller Moss yet?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
We all liked it.
Fits the profile.
It does. 100%.
Probably get the same play as you got with Tyler Shuck, which I think was solid. I think you'll get solid quarterback play.
There is a level of is Jeff Brom like one of the coaches that you trust to take a joystick quarterback and get the most out of him?
Yes.
Yeah.
Like, maybe number 1 or like top 3 on that list?
He's up there.
Definitely up there. I don't know if I'd put him top 3 exactly, but he's close.
Yeah. What are some of the other portal moves or either enters or commitments that have stood out over the last couple of days?
Well, I think the Pribula move also signifies that Aller's probably coming back.
I think
he announced, didn't he?
Did he announce that he's coming back? All
yeah.
right, so that's interesting. So I think Aller could have done pretty well in the draft. Mateer entered the portal officially today, and I haven't seen it confirmed by anybody, but I have seen it mentioned that there's a no contact tag on it. So
Oklahoma.
Is he going to Oklahoma with his OC?
That's been the plan.
Yeah.
And so do you let Mateer and Hawkins? Yeah. Do you let Mateer and Hawkins battle it out? I mean, if I'm a coach, I would like that because then you've got, 2 good options.
Depth.
But do
you could like either one of them, if it like in the spring, battle it out. Hawkins Jr.'s coming back. Like if he loses the job, he could enter the portal, but so can Mateer, right? There's no limits. So technically either one could be like, all right, I lost the job, I'm out.
I mean, do we think there's a lot of different stuff going on here? Like who does Miami go get if Mateer is going to OU?
Cromanoke.
I mean,
Mendoza.
Oh yeah, Mendoza coming back home.
Am I the only one? I like Francisco. Am I the only one who's a little surprised by how interested so many teams seem to be in him?
Our guys have number 2 quarterback. I was surprised at that.
Well, but like, who would we have over him?
Oh,
I mean, Cromanoke's number 1, isn't he? But Mateer's over him. Cromanoke's. But I'm just like, I liked Fernando. I thought he was good with Cal. And it is one of those years where the portal is not like there aren't the Cam Ward types in the portal this year, at least so far. So maybe that's it. It's just I saw some of the programs that were interested in him, and I was like, oh, all right then.
I thought there were a couple interesting things. One, Cromanoke being that high, I think speaks to the poor quarterback class we have so far.
Yeah.
Like obviously there's a lot of that ranking is going to be his potential long-term upside. I don't think he's ready. He could arrive a year ahead of schedule and crush it next year, but it's probably, not likely that it happens. I thought Van Buren going to Mississippi State is interesting. Like a guy who was playing okay for Mississippi State. Now, I did not like some of the stuff that LSU did at quarterback for the prior 2 years, high school wise. So, like, I wasn't a real Ricky Collins guy, and then the kid out of Jacksonville, I was not a fan of. So, I think this is a nice get for them to be kind of the heir apparent to Nuss when he leaves. And LSU's also spending quite a bit, I think, in the portal. So, Brian Kelly hot seat if they don't win something next year, I would assume. And it seems like they are, finding a way to spin after being really, really cheap in the portal this past year, and it hurt them. The other one.
What did Brian Kelly say? He said, "We don't buy players." Remember talking about all the defensive linemen that came
in the moment.
Technically, they're only rentals.
Well, there you go. How about that? Sorry, but I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, not at all. The other one is Nebraska getting like their D-line room rated, and then they end up getting Williams Winery from Missouri, who people are like, oh, he sucked. I'm like, we talked on this show. You can find the tape from last year when I was out there at Under Armour practice. Like, this kid is very high potential, but he does not look close. Like typically the dudes who crush in their freshman year, they also kind of crush the Under Armour practices, or the All-American Bowl practices. Like it's you're just kind of better now than everybody else. Doesn't mean you're gonna be the best guy in 3-4 years for the draft, but I'm not that concerned that Winery did not actually play very well or very much for Missouri, because I thought he was extremely raw as a prospect anyway. So maybe Nebraska can get something out of him.
Before even we got the Pribula news, I looked at the college football playoff, and I made a list of quarterback rooms that might create a different level of quarterback in terms of the portal availability. Penn State was on that list. Obviously, SMU has Preston Stone in the portal as well. And even though Preston Stone definitely struggled at the beginning of this season, I'm not going to entirely give up on the idea that he might be able to land somewhere with the team and a coach who can be able to tap into some of that potential. I think Notre Dame's got several quarterbacks, obviously that could all of a sudden hit the portal and be interesting once the Fighting Irish season ends. Obviously, Texas, where you've got Quinn and or Arch, and we assume that might be Quinn. Ohio State still has some super talented players that are in that room right now where they're going to have to make some decisions. Penn State, and then is Oregon going to move on to Dante Moore?
I don't know.
If Dante Moore hits the portal, is he one of the top? I would rather have Dante Moore or Luke Kromenoke would be an interesting debate.
This for me would be part of that discussion we had last week during Day Trader Danny, when I said if a school could afford him and decides to pass, I would say buyer beware. Because Dante Moore has seen him practice all season long. They've seen him prep. They've seen everything that he does.
They recruited him. He was first committed to the Ducks coming out of high school and then flipped to UCLA.
But if he's there and they say thanks but no thanks, I would be very concerned if I'm the next team. You know, like if they like him, they should pay him and say, you're our guy and keep rolling, which that would be my expectation. I haven't heard anything. Like, it's been quiet because he hasn't had to play much. You know, Dylan Gabriel's been healthy, so you haven't had to need him. But if they let him walk, I'd be a little bit nervous.
I would agree with that. I'm curious, like, where Novosad goes for Oregon. Yep. I know there were some, like, Georgia rumors there, so we'll see if those are real or not. It's like something to look into. Like, this Georgia, everybody's all rah about Stockton, and maybe he is the guy, but I don't know.
For right now,
he's the guy for the next month, but like, is he the guy for next year? I don't know. Notre Dame is fascinating. We think Milroe's going pro.
Yes,
those are the reports this morning.
Oh, yeah. This morning said pro because they've been all over the map.
Here's the phrasing, and it's very specific. Jalen Milroe expected to go to the NFL, but decision will come after bowl game.
Meaning, I want to see what everybody else has as far as NIL offers for me to transfer.
Right? Probably, yeah.
Let's give you a little more time to kind of pass the hat and see what we got.
Yeah.
I would think.
What would Alabama do at quarterback if Milroe goes pro or leaves?
Who's the kid that DeBoer brought from Washington with him?
Oh, the tall kid?
Austin Mack. Is that right?
Yeah.
They also have Ty Thompson, and they have
Ty Simpson.
Sorry, yes, not Ty Thompson. Good Lord.
Ty Thompson's the only quarterback left at Tulane.
At Tulane, yeah. Would Bama go get a transfer? This is also kind of one of those things. I think there is some risk if you're a coach of being like addicted to floor and not being willing to bet on ceiling. And it's risky, obviously, because if you suck, you may get fired. So I get it. But if you want to really like hit the upside, the best upside may be in somebody who's not in the portal. It may be somebody who you actually need to give a chance in games to see like, oh, this guy's actually, pretty good. And we see this all the time. Like coaches think like, oh, practice is important, and it is. But we'll use the Utah example, or we go over this list every year. We can kind of dig it out again if we want. But a lot of times coaches pick the wrong guy at a camp, and going for somebody who's proven out of the portal, that probably gives you more floor because you've seen it. But also it in some cases probably caps your ceiling. Not really sure some of these guys have that ceiling, whereas somebody on your existing roster, may have more ceiling. But it's that comfort feel like going to get somebody can play.
Who is gonna land Tom's favorite player, the whoopsie daisy king, known as Anthony Colandrea? I mean, that should be the hottest commodity out there in the portal.
I mean, Luke Altmaier's coming back, or else I'd be all over trying to get Colandrea to Champaign.
How about that big announcement at the basketball game? It's great. Running it back. Excited for that. It's a good thing. Some continuity. He played really good.
But Frank, I know Pat Bryant's going to the NFL.
Yep.
Is Franklin gone too?
Yep. I know Illinois been hosting a few receiver transfers the last week or so. Hoping to get one. They like what they have in the room, but they want a proven guy to be kind of, just add to the room.
Who do you think would be in the conversation to delay this Milroe announcement? Is it like Bama figure out if you want to pay me or not? Or if it's not Bama, what team do you think actually is a fit for him, both style of offense and also money-wise? Like, let's say you probably need to come up with what, 3.5, 4?
Golly.
I mean, look.
I know.
These coaches are making 8 or 9, and the quarterback's way more important than the head coach to winning. You know, like I'd rather have a stud quarterback and Chip coaching my team than a stud coach and some shit quarterback. Like it's the players win the games.
That's right. That's exactly what I would tell my team. You guys go out there and figure it out.
I mean,
call whatever you want.
But I do think you have to be careful, Bud.
Notre Dame, which makes a lot of sense, actually.
I think you've got to be careful, Bud, because this quarterback will not be a savior by himself. True. Like if you pay for a great quarterback, you better put good talent around him.
But anybody paying $3 or $4 million for a quarterback
should be able to.
They're not one of these schools that's paying 15 total. They're going to be one of those schools that's paying 25, 30, low 30s.
Right.
I would think, unless you just have really bad cap management, which it's a new world. Maybe some people do. I don't know.
By the way, I was not aware of this, but I was looking at the quarterback class, the transfer portal class. Devin Brown plays at Ohio State. He is in the portal to transfer, but he is going to finish the season with the Buckeyes.
Mm-hmm. Right.
That's how it should work. Like you can go see your offers, see what's out there. And then once the season is done, once you've chased your championship, then it's over and you can go. Like I didn't realize that. And you're, rivals, you're both in the playoffs, very similar situations. I know he hasn't played as much, which probably makes it even more glaring. He hasn't played as much as Pribula.
He was the first one called on. When was it? When did Howard get a little banged up, or maybe just lost his helmet, and then Devin Brown had to come in? It was either Indiana,
Michigan, wasn't it?
Michigan or Indiana?
I think it was the Indiana game.
Yeah. Came in, ran one play, and was like, Great try hard. Great moments and try hard.
What about Colorado for Milroe?
Be interesting.
I don't know. They'd have to change systems because he's more of like Pat Shermer. If he's there, he's running NFL style.
Yeah.
If you are
Quinn Ewers,
Daniels,
Colorado,
right? Like if you're Milroe, you see what Denbrock did with Jaden Daniels. Maybe you're like, that fits me.
And so you go to Notre Dame.
But is Riley Leonard done? I thought he had another year left.
He does.
That could be a portal name.
That would be. We're getting lost in the weeds here, boys. What about Michigan for Jalen Milroe? As a bridge to Underwood.
Ooh.
I mean, Orgy is in the portal, so why don't you go get the real thing?
How does Riley Leonard have another year yet?
I don't know. I swore he had 2 years of eligibility left, but I could be wrong. It's hard with COVID. Everybody's got like 55 years of eligibility, and it's hard to keep track of who has what.
Tailgate saying he's already committed to the Senior Bowl. He's like,
so he's
Riley Leonard is?
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, then Notre Dame makes sense for Milroe too.
Yeah. Is USC committed to Maeva?
No.
No.
I would think they'd be in the market.
Yeah.
I think he's probably back, but probably not very expensive. Like if you want to compete. But we're getting down the list is getting pretty thin here.
Right? I mean, the top.
What about Caden Salter?
If Milroe and Ewers go pro, it's really kind of in a list.
So all of a sudden, North Carolina quarterback Max Johnson doesn't sound as bad.
You know who's still out there?
Who?
Matt Sluka.
Yeah.
You want to talk about the buyer beware.
Speaking of guys who are probably like not correctly evaluated in practice, and the coaches picked the wrong guy.
Sluka starting over Malik Williams.
Yeah.
Yeah. Crazy.